when was the last time I did this? A couple of days ago? No, actually, yeah, no, Thursday, yesterday morning, which was cut short. So my apologies to anybody who watched that or who was online. Maybe there was nobody at that point, but I don't know what happened. I got a phone call, but that's actually not the reason. By the way, a good reminder. I gotta make sure that I mute this thing. Here we go. So that no calls come through. Because I don't know if YouTube disconnects the broadcast when there's a call coming. I don't think so, but anyhow. Yeah, so I had one yesterday, wanted to announce mine today, end of the day, 5 o'clock here, local time. I wanted to recap the weekend, prep myself for the weekend in front of everybody or whoever is joining. What did I do today? I'm in my office, so I'm preparing for my next video, which I'm going to record tomorrow, so you can see how I actually do it. Well, actually, let me just flip this the other way around. So this is what I do when I prepare myself for the next recording. So I print my notes and I tape them on the wall, and then I take some additional notes on the whiteboard. And then I have another whiteboard over there, which is full of notes. So this is what I do to get ready. And the more I do this, the more I'm convinced that, obviously this is a no-brainer, but the more you prepare, the better results you get. And now that I have this twice a week release schedule with my videos, I'm actually either in the mode of prepping for the next one or recording. So it's like prep, record, prep, record. This seems to be my norm now for the week. And other than that, I just run my client meetings. So that's pretty much all I do, because I hired someone to do my content, like the editing and the high-level planning part, so that I can more focus on the individual topics and making sure that I talk about the relevant things. And like I said, be more prepared for the videos. So now what I'm trying to do, like tomorrow, I'm probably going to put my camera over there in the corner, actually move that whiteboard, put that over there in that corner, and then actually stand there and do the whole recording at one go. So the last two videos that I have released, the one last night and the one before that, have all been recorded at just one go. So there's no individual takes, which was the case for, I don't know, several months or half a year, almost a year. I guess in my head, I was trying to make everything perfect, which never is the case. So therefore I wanted to, I guess, cut the so-called 10-minute video into 4 or 5 sections and record them and really focus on that. And I noticed that I was actually, maybe that gave me an excuse to, since I knew that it was only a 1.5 minute or 2-minute section that I had to prepare myself for. So I don't think I was enough prepared. And now that I'm trying to do it at one go, I think there's two benefits. One, it feels more natural, at least that's how I feel it. The flow is better. And then second, I forced myself to prep more for the video, and then I think the output is greater as well. Everything we do in life, it's all about preparation. There's this old saying that 80% of the end result is your attitude. And I think you could replace the word attitude with preparation. You go to a meeting, if it's an hour-long meeting, prep for 20 minutes. Make sure that you know what the topics are. So that's my thing. So today's signal was to make sure that I was able to print these out, get ready for tomorrow, which is a recording day. Tomorrow is Saturday. I have one meeting in the morning at 9, and then I'm going to come back to the office and get ready and then record. So that's pretty much my tomorrow's agenda. And then if I have time, I'm going to hit the gym. If not, then that's going to be pushed back to Sunday morning. So this is my end of the week Friday live. I wanted to catch up with anybody who has any questions. The last time I didn't really have any interaction with anybody. I'm hoping today we get some questions and I get to answer some of your comments, whether they're on topic, off topic, or whatever. So just feel free to throw anything at me. It could be related to my business. It could be related to your business. It could be about health, fitness, politics. I don't really want to talk about, but we can even have a conversation about that. No worries. My shoulder is all like crazy tight. I've had this shoulder issues for the last year or so, and they got better, and then my left knee started acting out, and then now my shoulder tightness is back. So welcome to my world. It never ends. It fucking never ends. Okay, let me adjust this thing a little bit. Yeah, so what am I talking about tomorrow? One of my favorite topics as well is how to deal with uncertainty. If you think about it at a high level, the reason why it's, I think number one, if you are an entrepreneur, if you want to get better personally, or if you want to, like, I don't know, get to a different level, no matter what your thing is, I think one of the most important skills you need to master is your ability to deal with uncertainty. And what that means is that usually, as people, we prepare for the worst case scenarios because according to my theory, because we are incapable of dealing with uncertainty, not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. And therefore our mind goes into this overthinking mode of, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Oh my God, I'm going to lose my house. I don't have money, or I don't have anything to eat next year, or I'm going to lose this deal and the bad thing is going to happen. According to studies, 92% of the things that we, what's the right word? We torture ourselves about never materialize. And the remaining, 8%? 1/3 of them don't really even happen or materialize. So it's like, to a certain extent, it's just waste of time. But I think it's because we can't deal with the fact that we don't know what's going to happen. So therefore, our mind is looking for that. It's called negativity bias. There's even studies about this stuff. So tomorrow's video, I wanted to talk about this from an entrepreneurship perspective. So how I was able to overcome that, and not truly overcome, I guess. I'm still, what's the right word? I have to remind myself constantly what the right strategy is and what the right tools are. But I've been able to put together a set of tools for myself that work in my life. And that's really made it possible for me to really let go of the past and the future and just focus on the present moment and be less outcome driven. What does that mean in practice? It means that I'm not really judging myself whether I got the desired outcome every single time, because every single thing, whether it's a loss or a win, so to say, it's ultimately a win in the end, because either I get the epic story or the desired outcome, so I win no matter what, so I get to learn. And it's been a really, really difficult journey for me personally, so that's why I want to share that stuff. And I think you don't need to be an entrepreneur to benefit from this, but especially entrepreneurship is all about getting punched in the mouth daily and then waking up tomorrow morning and then feeling excited about the fact that you're going to get punched in the mouth today as well. And a lot of that has to do with our ability to deal with that uncertainty, the unknown, what's going to happen. Just keep going, because your mind has that negativity bias. It served us well in the past when we lived in the jungle, if you live in that, or if you believe in that theory. And but nowadays, we don't need that same capability anymore. But it's hard to turn off your monkey mind and not to worry about the worst case scenarios. You're kind of torturing yourself. So we choose the worst case over the unknown because the unknown is so difficult to fathom. Anyhow, just my theory, but like I said, science backs this up as well. So I want to talk about that tomorrow. And there's 4 steps in my tomorrow's video that I'm going to highlight. So I hope it's going to be very concrete, actionable to everybody who wants to listen to that. But it's going to come out on Sunday, actually. So Thursdays and Sundays are the days when I release new videos. So I try to record, or I always record Wednesdays and Saturdays. So then my guy, my content manager, he has a 24-hour turnaround time for my long videos, and then he's gonna post it on my behalf. Anyhow, so that's what I'm gonna do tomorrow. And today, like I said, I've been preparing. And it's sometimes hard because being able to concentrate is not easy for me. I've always been that way. Even at school, when I had subjects that were not really my favorite, I had lots of discipline, but being able to sit down and force myself to kind of like shut down my brain, my monkey mind, and not focus on all these other things simultaneously has been really hard for me. Even today it is. I need to remind myself constantly. And that's why understanding what that one thing is that you need to do on any given day is really, really crucial. And that's why I always start my day with that same question: what's today's signal? Meaning, what's that one thing that I need to do today that moves my ball forward the most? Because simplicity is key to everything, in my mind. Anyhow, what are you guys up to? So while you are thinking about it, I'm gonna send one text here. One text here. We got 2 people online. Don't be shy. Talk to me. Also had some warranty issues today that we had to take care of for some of my previous construction projects. So those are never really fun, but it's just something that has to be done. It just has to be done. What else? Yeah, so in the meantime then, if there's no questions, I'm gonna do what I always do, or not always, but in many of these lives, I'm gonna go back to my old notes, to myself, to my journal, because journaling is one of the highest ROI activities that anybody can do. I'm gonna talk about that tomorrow as well in my video, how when you journal and when you write down what you're grateful for, it's the gratitude exercise. It's gonna take your mind, or move your mind away from the past or the future, and just makes it possible for you to focus on the present moment better. Let me see what I can pull up. Last time I was in end of June 2024. The worst thing that you can have is plan B. Plan B is the largest enemy to plan A. This was just a random thought, by the way. I didn't look this up beforehand, but it's funny how this is related to this very topic that I just mentioned. If you think about plan B, is basically the same thing as thinking about the worst case. So I have to prepare myself for that horror scenario or the worst case scenario. But isn't that the same as plan B, basically? So you have a goal in mind and you're working towards something, but then all of a sudden your mind starts to race towards plan B. Okay, well, what if that happens? What if the bad thing happens? Then I have to prepare myself, because not knowing is a lot worse, so, than dealing with the bad idea. Because I think we're willing to torture ourselves quite a bit just to make sure that, like I wrote down for myself that if I prepare for the worst, I won't be surprised. I won't be blindsided. I think that's the thinking behind many of these mental models, that if I prepare myself for the worst, I won't be blindsided. Doesn't that sound crazy? That people dwell on these bad ideas, they torture themselves with the ideas because it's just almost unbearable to deal with the unknown. As long as we know what's going to happen, no matter how bad the scenario is. And then, okay, one might ask, okay, why is that bad then? Well, I think it's bad because then you're limiting yourself. Fear is limiting you. Because you only see every glass is half empty always. So maybe this is actually a good segue to that video tomorrow. So plan B is the largest enemy to plan A. Questions to ask to get better in life. 3 things I wrote down for myself on July 1st, 2024. What would it take for me to get this deal / job or business? What do you think I should know that I don't know? What would you tell me if you knew it didn't upset me? It's like interesting, especially the last 2. What do you think I should know that I don't know? Oftentimes when I have let's say when I prepare for my videos using ChatGPT, I ask this very question from ChatGPT. What do you think I should know that I don't know? What would you tell me if you knew I didn't upset me? I think especially the last one is a question to your closest friends. Because many people, I think they hold back because they think that the real truth is going to upset us. What if you gave your best friend a free pass saying that, okay, well, it doesn't matter what you tell me, I'm not going to get upset. On question one, bias is key. Regardless of my age, gender, or race, what would it take? Regarding number two, cost of not knowing what you don't know. Exactly, it's called the ignorance debt. What do you think I should know that I don't know? Because if you think about it, you want to go from plan A to plan B, point A to point B. Many people, there's actually two steps to that. First, you got to know what you don't know. And then you got to, bridge that gap. But not knowing what you don't know, there's two steps. Does it make sense? Point number three, feelings don't matter. No matter how hard it is, change the first time you get the feedback, assuming people are right. What would you tell me if you knew it didn't upset me? Feelings don't matter. No matter how hard it is, change the first time you get the feedback. Yep. Bias and victim mentality. On July 4th, 3 days later, do you know that 1 in every 250 businesses make it to 10 million plus a year in sales? 90% of businesses never hit 1 million a year in sales. 9% of businesses cross the 1 million threshold, and then only 1 out of 250, meaning 0.4%, make it past 10 million. How to get out of that below 1 million category? Sales. If you don't know how to sell, it doesn't matter how good your product is. This is one of the things I've been talking about too. There are 3 skills you need to master as an entrepreneur. First, sell, then build, and then lead. Selling is all about, like here, what this note means is that if you're below 1 million with your company, it means that you don't know how to promote and market your company enough. You don't understand what it takes, and you don't do it in enough volume. Many people, when they start a company, they might be engineers, they might be very product driven, they might be into fine-tuning every single little detail, but that doesn't really matter how good your details are if nobody knows you exist. Once you have been able to, take off, so to say, then your ability to build, which was the second skill, is very crucial. Of course, you need to be able to have a good product in parallel with the sales activity. It doesn't mean that they exclude themselves, but sell, build, lead. Usually being able to sell and market is the number one thing that we need to master. And then lead, of course, when you hire people, you want to build a true business that you can then ultimately sell, that gives you money makes money while you sleep. Empathy is a very powerful, selfish and selfless tool. Good salespeople have empathy. That's true. I don't consider myself the good salesperson, by the way, for the record. I don't think I'm terrible either. Okay, self-judgment here, being self-aware. What makes me an average or average plus salesperson? I think I have empathy, and I have the ability to build trust with people, meaning when I did sales for my own company, I used to tell people if I felt that I wasn't able to help them. So I never tried to convince them to buy from me. I had a lot of conviction in what I was doing, and after the fact, I was reading about it, that actually a good straight sales strategy, but back then it came naturally. So I think that made me an average plus salesperson, that I was able to listen to what people need. Then I was very honest. I was kept my promises, because I think ultimately sales is about helping people make decisions. You don't try to convince anybody, because if you try to convince somebody to buy from you if they don't need it, it's going to bite you back in the ass in the end at some point, for sure. But I think you need empathy for sure. You need to be able to build trust. But what kept me as an average person was that I didn't really have the ability. Back then I didn't realize that. But now if I analyze myself from sales perspective, I didn't understand when to pause and when to stop. I talked too much. Sometimes talked myself out of a sale. That's a thing too, by the way. If I watch Like my brother is one of the best salespeople I've seen. He has this ability to execute deals. I think my shortcoming was that I basically had the same strategy with everybody. I just kept talking and talking and talking, introducing what the features were and basically highlighting this and highlighting that. And I'm pretty sure that I talked many people out of buying from me. Good salespeople know when to stop and when to pause. For instance, let's say you make an offer to somebody. No matter how high or low or whatever, it might feel completely ridiculous, your offer to the person who's potentially buying from you. Your job is not to say anything after that, because that shows that you have conviction in your product, in your service, in your pricing. When you just basically present it, and it's like, and you're quiet, no matter how long it takes, and you pause, you stop talking. And I don't think I ever mastered that. Now I'm better at it, but in the beginning, no, I didn't have any idea. I just kept talking. And probably in a situation like that, had there been a long silence, I probably would have said something. Whereas the right strategy would have been to just shut the fuck up and let the other person talk next. And also an old rule of thumb in sales is that the person asking the questions is in control. People want to talk about themselves. You don't want to be the one talking all the time. You want to ask the questions so that you get the prospect to tell what they value, what the problems are, so that you can actually solve their problems. That's how I look at it now. Then what I also wrote on the same day was that everybody's in a rush to leave a positive impact, but they're missing the first step, which is to leave a positive impact on themselves. The best way to impact 1 million people is to start with one. Not a bad quote. The hard way is hard, but it's not as hard as the easy way. Everything in life has a price. Oh my God, I like that. The hard way is hard, but it's not as hard as the easy way. I forgot about this completely. The one I use all the time is that hard decisions, easy life, easy decisions, hard life. So one of the most important guiding principles in my life has always been this piece of advice that if I'm 50-50 on a decision, I'm undecided, I have two options. Ask yourself, which one of these two feels harder? And short term, always choose that. Why? The same reason as this one. So hard decisions, easy life. If you try to avoid the problems, they always come back. They're going to bite you in the ass big time. Everything in life has a price. Another way of saying this is that there is no solutions. There's only trade-offs and compromises. So got to understand what the trade-off is. 2 questions to ask my customers. This is big. If I were to eliminate all of the features except one, what would it be? What that gives you is the most valuable feature to my customers. What is the thing that they value the most? Let's say I'm building an apartment building. It has 20 units as an example. And I've done several of those projects in the past. And after the fact, I go and interview these people after they have lived there for a year, in order for me to find out what's the thing that they value the most, and be able to then use that information in my next project. Is that I would ask these people, okay, if I were to eliminate all of the features except one, what would it be in your apartment? So meaning heating or cooling or electricity, or like ability to cook, or whatever. I mean, of course, that's really broad. That's hard to answer, but you could narrow it down. Let's say like a bathroom. Okay, so if in order for me to understand what is the people really value in a bathroom, I would ask, okay, so if I were to eliminate everything from this bathroom except one thing, what would you keep? They could say that, okay, I want to have this much space, or I want to have the toilet separated from this by that much, and I want to have a drying rack, or I want to have, I don't know, just as an example. And then also the other way around, if I were to eliminate one feature that changed nothing about your life, what would it be? That's the least valuable to my customers. So if I had to eliminate all of the features except one, what would it be? So meaning what would they want to keep? And then if I were to eliminate one feature that changed nothing, that's like, I don't want to pay for that. Because sometimes sometimes it makes sense to delete. Sometimes your product or your service becomes more valuable when you delete stuff. You make it easier to use. That way, when you delete something, your customers actually see the total package more clearly because there's less clutter, if you think about it. The same thing if I have 15 sweaters in my closet, I would argue that probably 5 of them max are my favorites, and the remaining 10 I really never wear. So using the same logic, if I got rid of 5 and my total number went from 15 to 10, wouldn't my closet be more valuable in my eyes? Yes, because it would be easier for me to find the good ones out of the total pile, right? This is the exact same thing. Why deleting is always the first option and then just adding, because people by default, they want to add. They just add complexity without knowing it. They think that the customers value more features, whereas they might actually value less features more, because that way they actually get to see the total package and it's easier to understand, easier to use. Oh, then I had an 8-day gap between July 6th and July 14th. Okay, ideas. Okay, my weekly recap. What big issue am I dealing with right now? What did I learn this week? The cost of change is guaranteed. The return isn't. Think about it. When to change something, is it good enough? Should it be launched already or should I work on it for more? The cost of change is guaranteed. The return isn't. The world talks in absolutes. Diet, politics, alcohol, everything. Everything is about absolute extremes. Then 3 days later. Did you by the way know that the number one X or Twitter activity happens during TV commercial breaks? Commercials don't get the attention TV does, hence the opportunity for product placement. Yeah, TV still has attention. Mobile devices, the thing that I'm using here to record this live, has the most attention. That's where everybody is. That's why I'm here, because everybody's using their mobile devices. That's where all the attention is. But TV commercial breaks, or the TV commercials don't work the same way anymore because people don't tell stories. And I think nowadays you got to be able to tell stories so that people actually gravitate towards your product. That's how I look at it. Yeah, but that's interesting. What do I have here? I recorded a video. Jeez. Oh, no, it's a picture. On July 18, beginners are paralyzed to make a decision because they assume the real world works like school and has only one right answer. This is big. In reality, there are many right answers with only one wrong answer, doing nothing, which is like taking action. This is the thing that I talk to especially my daughter a lot about, because she comes to me for advice quite often. And the kind of conversation we have is that, okay, well, Dad, what do you think? Should I do this or that? I'm like, look, I don't know. But what I do know is that based on my experience, like we just had a conversation like this a couple of weeks ago about something school related. And I told her that, look, based on my experience, what you're dealing with is going to be like a drop in a bucket in the long term. Right now, it doesn't feel that way, and that's completely understandable. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. We're all humans, and that's the way it works. But the reason why you struggle with those two decisions or two alternatives is that you think there's a right answer and a wrong answer. But look at it this way. No matter what you decide, you're going to win anyhow. This ties back to my video tomorrow. So no matter what you decide, you can't go wrong. Why? Because you're going to win anyway. What do you mean? Well, you're going to win anyway because you either get your desired outcome, meaning in hindsight, you're like, well, it would have been better to do it this way, but I got the epic story. So you get the lesson and the story or the desired outcome. So stop worrying about which one of these two you pick, because you're going to win anyhow. And if you make the so-called quote-unquote wrong decision, you're going to learn from it. You actually might be better off making a bunch of wrong decisions as early as possible so that you learn and you get better. And also that way, when you're not afraid of making decisions, you actually lower the cost of decision making, which means that you're gonna live your life outside your comfort zone more, which means that you're gonna get better and maximize your potential, whatever that is. That's how I look at it. So this is absolutely huge, in my opinion. We want the outcome, we need the journey. A startup isn't about the money-raising headline, it's loving the grind when everyone else is out having fun. Health isn't about the gym selfie, it's the daily decision to train, even when you don't feel like it. Financial independence isn't quitting your job, it's 1,000 small no's that let you say a big yes to your future. Falling in love with outcomes doesn't move you forward, falling in love with the process does. This is such a cliche. Everybody, I don't know how old you guys are. Everybody probably tells you, not everybody, but you hear this a lot. I'm pretty sure that, it's the journey and the process and not the outcome. But trust me, I had heard those things when I was 20 or 30 or 40 even. I didn't believe any of that shit. Why? For the same reason that I wanted to record this video about dealing with uncertainty, because I was so outcome driven that the end result to me was everything. I wasn't comfortable with the uncomfortable. I wasn't comfortable with losing, so to say. And therefore, it was easier for me to torture myself with negative thoughts and plan for the worst. And because at least nobody would be able to surprise me with the terrible outcome when I did it myself already beforehand. But it was limiting me big time. And the real reason is I was just so outcome driven. So everything to me was about a win and a loss. So it's like, okay, set a deadline, set a target. I want to achieve this and that. If I didn't do it, it was almost out of the question. I was like, no, that's not possible, because I worked so hard and I had this ability to see the big picture, connect the dots and see around the corner. And then, life happens, time goes by, and I start to realize that, fuck, there's going to be adversity. There has to be, because if there isn't, then you always live in your comfort zone. And what happened to me was that I intentionally put myself out of my comfort zone, but in certain areas where I didn't do it intentionally, it was so hard for me to deal with that. So-called nasty surprises. And then, like I said, there are certain tools in my toolbox that I use for that. One is that I let go of the outcome. I just basically tell myself that I win no matter what. There are no bad outcomes or good outcomes. There are only outcomes. And I win no matter what. Nobody died, nobody gets sick. The second tool in my toolbox, I focus on the present moment. So I stop worrying about the future or stop dwelling on the past, and I just focus on, every time my mind starts to go there, I pull it back and I'm like, okay, all you got to do is focus on right now, because that's all you got. Yesterday I can't change. I haven't lived tomorrow yet, so I don't know what's going to happen. So how do I pull myself back into the present moment? And the tool there for me is just to start listing things that I'm grateful for. Might sound like a cliche or simple thing, but trust me, it works. So I started journaling and doing all that stuff. And then the last thing for me was to start building proof through action. I'm just a huge believer in that stuff, because if you think about confidence overall, if you don't have confidence in your ability to deal with uncertainty and deal with the unknown, then you just have to practice that somehow. And how do you do that? You start taking smallest possible steps towards that. You expose yourself to failures and adversity, and then you just get comfortable with the uncomfortable, and you numb the feeling and the pain. So I guess that's how I see it. It has been one of the biggest achievements, to be honest, in my life, to be able to get better at this. Nobody's ever ready. I will never be ready. It's always going to be hard for me, but at least now I have tools in my toolbox that can pull me back would say right there in the middle, where I know I can master this at least somehow. Take a really deep breath, exhale, smile, say, I'm not going to care about this when I'm 90. That's another big one. I'm not going to care about this when I'm 90. You ask yourself, is this something, what do you think, this particular thing that I'm dealing with right now, is this going to be an issue when I'm 90 still? And if the answer is no, then just don't worry about it. Smile, take a deep breath. It's like, I'm not going to worry about this. This is super hard, but it's like, I don't think my opinion counts. I never believe I'm right, but I do have to make subjective opinions and decisions all the time. But I don't think they are right. Don't be a focus group of one and think you know when you don't. Hard for me too. The reason, of course, these are all hard for me because I wrote this for myself. I knew what I need in life. But I'm so glad to do this every now and then, to reread my own notes. If you don't guys do it, highest ROI, return on investment. The best way to invest in yourself is to study, learn, take notes, and read them again after 6 to 12 months, and again, and then again, and again. Okay, listen to this one. Beginning of August. Courage is knowing it might hurt and doing it anyway. Stupidity is the same. That's why life is hard. Fuck. This is from Jeremy Goldberg. I don't actually know who Jeremy is, but I just copied this from somewhere. But it hit me really hard. Courage is knowing it might hurt and doing it anyway. Stupidity is the same, and that's why life is hard. Fuck. Oh my God, this is hard today. One more time. Courage is knowing it might hurt and doing it anyway. Stupidity is the same, and that's why life is hard. Definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. I think where this, I would say at one go, on first try, courage and stupidity is the exact same thing. But the difference comes when you do something for the second time. Then you're not brave anymore, then you're just stupid. If you're expecting a different outcome but doing the exact same thing. Yeah, at the outset, courage and stupidity are the same thing. Think about it. You know it might hurt, but you're going to do it anyhow. Because there's always a chance that this pain is actually good pain, right? Because no pain, no gain is just so true. Mentally or physically, there's no way you can build the body you want without physical pain. That's just absolutely impossible, unless you're a freak of a nature, and even those people need to work. Mental toughness, growing a company, it's going to hurt like crazy. So you know it's going to hurt, you know it's going to be hard. You do it anyhow because you know that the upside is great and you get to test how good you truly are. But then stupidity is the same. And that's why life is hard. So then the real difference comes then after that first try. Most people are interested, few are truly committed. Interested people act when it's convenient. Committed people act no matter what. Interested people do the minimum. Committed people push beyond limits. Interested people wait to be told. Committed people take the initiative. Fully committing is the key to accomplishment. Committed versus interested. Yep. On August 6th, 2024, your brain deals with what's urgent, not necessarily what's important. Oh my God. Yeah, hence why I try to start my day always with the question, okay, what's today's signal? Because your brain might tell you or give you so many different so-called signals about what might be important, but that's not the true signal. That's not what's relevant today. So being able to separate that, and you probably, if you have heard me talked before or have these so-called monologues or lectures here, talking to myself, you probably heard me say that the reason why it's so freaking hard to see what's relevant is that there's just so much noise in life. Because if you think about life overall, 90% of the stuff that people tell you or what you read or what you hear, news, politics, it's just complete noise. It might be maybe 95% or 99%, I don't know, but at least that applies to me. And this is the piece of advice that I give to my own kids. Stop listening to other people because that's noise. Yes, you need to separate those who actually can help you get better because those people have been there where you want to go. But most of the advice in life is just noise. That's why I just like when governments start to tell you that, okay, well, you should do this and this, I'm like, how the hell do you know what's best for me? You know what I mean? It's like the whole concept to me is just so very foreign that there's somebody out there that who knows better than me what's best for me. But I think the reason why people fall for that noise, that 90%, is because most of us are followers, not leaders. And I think the number one favor that you can do to yourself is to ask yourself, what are my values? What is it that is important to me? Because that's the only way how you can separate noise from signal and be a leader of your own life. You don't have to be a leader for anybody else. But I think everybody needs to be a leader for his or her own life so that we know what's best for us. So that nobody can come and tell us that, okay, you should do this and that, and then we just don't fall for that. You know what I mean? Because the idea is that I know myself so well, I'm so self-aware that, that I know exactly what's best for me. What is that I need to do today to make me happy? So, and you can always ask yourself, am I going to worry about this thing when I'm 90? And if the answer is no, then don't worry about it now. I know it's easier said than done. When I came here, by the way, when I was actually, I'll give you an example why it's hard. There's only one person online, so this is something that, you know, listen if you're there. I sold my house in December, and a week and a half ago, the new owner called me and said that they have some sort of moisture issue in an area which is close to the upstairs bathroom. I'm like, great. This smells like a lawsuit. This smells like damages. This smells like all of that stuff. So what does my mind tell me? All of a sudden, I'm like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? The exact thing that I just mentioned before when I started this broadcast about like how it's so comfortable for us to look at torture ourselves with the worst case, because living with the unknown is so freaking hard. Okay, I did the same exact thing. My mind already traveled there. Okay, do I have to buy that? Are they going to cancel the whole transaction? What the heck am I going to do? How much is it going to cost me? And then today, he calls me again. They had some sort of a property inspection there and some plumbing issues and whatnot. So of course my mind goes there again. So, and I'm like, I know the tools, I have the tools, I know how to take myself back to the present moment, but still I have to like do it like every 15 seconds, literally, when the going gets tough, because your mind travels to that worst case scenario so quickly. And again, when you live in that moment, when you're like, okay, well, where the fuck am I going to find that potential money? Or like, I have had the money that from the sale already invested somewhere else, and you know, it's like all kinds of headaches that come to your mind. Then ask yourself, am I going to worry about this thing when I'm 90? So in another 40, whatever, 5 years? No. So why do I worry about it now? Again, easier said than done, but we all fall for that stuff. But I think that's why I'm just the biggest believer in tools, mental models and tools, because when we have, I mean, this happens all the time, and next week it's going to be something else. I guarantee you, entrepreneurship is about getting punched in the mouth daily. I fully expect that to happen. I'm not trying to shy away from adversity because I just know that it's never going to go away. So the only chance I have of being happy and feeling fulfilled is to just learn to accept that. that adversity never goes away, especially because my goal in life is to test how good I truly am. So I'm gonna have so many freaking epic stories still between now and when I'm 90 or 100 that it's not gonna be even funny, because I know myself that I always find myself in these weird epic story related scenarios. And my friends, actually, I just had a conversation with my friend, and he said that it's funny that always happens to me, or me meaning you. All those things happen to you always. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Is that crazy? But I know that I could play it so safe, and I could just do nothing, and then I wouldn't have these epic stories. But I don't know. Maybe I was meant to be one of those people who goes through all that stuff. Anyhow, good times. Yeah, so we talked about how people are either interested or committed. Yeah, your brain deals with what's urgent, not necessarily what's important. Then something completely random. What I wrote to myself on the same day, on August 6th in 24, a year ago. If you go from a traditional business to a digital/education business, get rid of the other one. Don't straddle the line. Focus is all you have. No one has been able to succeed doing both at the same time. This was when I was pivoting still my real estate development and active building career. Now I'm in the mode where I'm focusing solely on my coaching stuff and my online content creation game, and I'm doing real estate passively on the side because I still want to have stories, I still want to have content and learnings. I want to keep myself active in the game, but I know that I don't have focus. I don't have enough focus to do both well. So that's why this is my priority. In the short term, people regret their actions more than inactions. He said, but in the long term, the inaction regrets stick around longer. That's right. That's absolutely true. So in the long term, you will regret the things that you never did, not the mistakes you made. Fighting for love and happiness is what we should be doing more than anything. Who you choose your partner to be is the biggest decision of your life. Okay, I have so many of these here in my journal about how there's three key decisions in life. One, who your life partner is. Number two, what you do for a living, and then number three, where you live, because those are the intuition, those are the inner energy or the gut decisions. Logic has no role in that game, and I think that's the reason why it's so important to get those right. Saying no allows you to sell to the right customers. Focus on the right customers. Saying no in time management makes you time. You can buy time and make time. In business, identify who your right customers are. Create categories with variables like who do I like the most, who bought the most, which customers made the most money for me, what else is in common. Look for similarities. What did they buy? Say no to other customers. You need to learn this too. Yeah. Saying no has been one of the big things for me as well. I sucked at it. I still suck at it. We all suck at so many things, but that's okay. That's no comments or questions today. That's interesting. I guess people are just shy. I might look scary, but I'm not actually. People tell me I look scary, especially women tell me I look scary. Do I look scary? People say that I have that serious default look on my face. So what's the expression on my face? Is that true? Chip in, let me know. Yeah, one person actually once told me, it was a female too. In regards to that person, if she's online, I don't think she is, but anyhow. She told me that I look like a successful mass murderer. I'm not a mass murderer, but I think it was really funny. Yeah, what I wrote, actually, this is exactly a year ago, well, August 16th. ChatGPT taking over search from Google. I don't know how many people actually use ChatGPT primarily nowadays as their search engine. More and more nowadays. What happens to their Google AdWords revenue? Interesting. I've been thinking about this too. Plus how AI is already dominating search and so many other things in the future. So if you, I don't know if you have noticed, but I'm sure you have, but if you type something, if you Google something, it actually is going, it gives you the Gemini answers first. You know, that's obviously the free version of Gemini, but that's the number one. That shows up number one in search results. Three core functions of every business, simplified, of course. Customer acquisition, customer delivery, and operations. How to get customers, how to deliver to customers, and how to stay out of trouble. What else is going on? Let's go back to my journal. I'm gonna stay online here for another, I don't know, 10 minutes or so at least. Looking for some questions. I haven't had questions in the last 2 sessions. Interesting. Where are my questions, people? Okay, so going back to my journal. On August 22nd, I had a lot of things to say. Patience with results, impatience with actions. I can change my life with one decision. I just had to get drunk and start driving. I can change my life forever. It happens the same in the other direction too, but it's delayed. That's the only difference. You take a freeway exit, but you have to keep driving for a long time to see distance grow between you and the old road you traveled on. Yeah, if you think about it, you want to change your life, you make one bad decision and your life changes instantaneously. But you make a good decision, you have to wait for a while. That's why change is so freaking hard. Because the bad things, the consequences are there right away for you to see. I get drunk and I start driving and I run over somebody and all of a sudden my life is basically over. But what if I just make a decision not to drink anything, I go to the gym and I eat healthy? I see no results. Absolutely none. That's why it's hard. But if I had to pick one thing that really resonated today, it's I want to go back. Courage is knowing it might hurt and doing it anyway. Stupidity is the same, and that's why life is hard. Man. Courage is knowing it might hurt and doing it anyway. Stupidity is the same, and that's why life is hard. Yeah. Well, anyhow, actually, even if there hasn't been any comments or questions today, I still, this was a good moment for me to reflect. I read some of these and actually I got to recap. This was also prep for me for tomorrow, for my video, because I get to practice delivering my message, of course, in a different manner here versus what I will do tomorrow. But nevertheless, it's something I look forward to. It's almost 6 o'clock. What's going on? So we have one person online. We have no questions. I used to get a lot of questions back in the day, guys. What's going on? Am I too scary? I already asked that once. Yesterday, I got a delivery package today via DHL. I ordered a book, and yesterday, or the day before, I ordered a bunch of markers. I use Sharpies nowadays a lot when it comes to my Sharpies are there on the windowsill. 2 kinds of Sharpies. These Sharpies, permanent Sharpies, for taking notes. This is what I do when I prep for videos. Look, this is how I prepare for my content. I got like 3 full pages of notes, and then what I do next is that then I read this out loud to ChatGPT, and I go back and forth like, I don't know, several times, understanding what my biggest focus area has been to better connect with my audience as far as what their pain points are, because it's easy for me to put the script together from my viewpoint, but then when I think in the past I feel that I haven't been very good at understanding how to then tie that back to the needs of the audience, if you know what I mean. So what are the problems that people deal with, and first and foremost, what are the emotions and the feelings behind those problems? So how can I speak their language so that they can actually see that, okay, well, nah, actually, I want to listen to this guy. Because we all fight for attention. Think about it. So YouTube is just full of material. I don't know if I even want to know how much competition there is for me. Like, I'm this tiny little content creator producing content in English about, business, nowadays, in particular about real estate. I'm helping real estate business owners, and I'm also talking about a lot of like mindset type of stuff. Okay, so you could call me a business coach, whatever. And I mean, it's just like unreal how much competition there is. So, and there's only a limited amount of attention. So this is a demand and supply game, not like everything else. So the better I understand how to speak the same language and what kind of problems my audience has. The same way if I sell t-shirts or these sweaters. Okay, I'm in the business of selling black sweaters. So if I want to succeed, we just covered, by the way, in the beginning of this live, what the success rate is for businesses to make money. The stats are not on your side. The odds are not on your side. But anyhow, so if you want to sell something successfully, you need to understand what the demand and supply looks like. Okay, so especially the customer side. If you understand what value to your customer means, you don't really have to pay attention to your competition. And that's why I don't really bother myself with a lot of information regarding competition. I'm like, okay, it doesn't really matter. It is what it is. There's plenty of it, I'm sure. But what I try to do is that I try to understand the audience. And it's hard too. So like I said, what are their problems? What are their emotions and feelings, and what do they want to achieve? And then that coupled with that information that I know well, which would be then this stuff here, and then tweaking it so that it actually resonates. That's what I spend most of my time on right now. Prepping, tailoring the content. And like I said, my vanity metrics are down because I repositioned my channel. And I think I've been going through, I know I've been going through a slump with my content quite a bit. So that's why I wanted to make some changes to the way I deliver it. That's why I hired somebody to help me with the roadmap part of it, the planning part, and the editing part as well. So that's how I look at it. My content guy says, by the way, I think I need more time to create the next 30-day content plan, ideally by today, so we can discuss it straight away. By then, I have to still dig deeper into what we are missing in our strategy and make sure everything makes sense. I have a feeling we are missing a lot of tiny details I'd like to address. Of course. Sounds good. Yeah, I was just texting with my social media guy. I'm going to reply to him as well regarding the script. Not sure if I'm on board with the title, but the other stuff makes sense. But the other stuff seems to make sense. Edit. It's good that you can edit, by the way, have you noticed? But the other stuff seems to make sense. Yeah, so it's been an hour of me talking again a lot. Hopefully whoever was on board probably nobody for the duration of the live, but hopefully you get something out of this. And always you can watch the whole broadcast. It's, as you know, it's saved there on YouTube. So since there's no questions right now, I'm gonna just call it a day. I have a dinner planned with a friend in an hour, so I gotta get home, get changed and all that good stuff. But the grind continues later today when I come home. I still need to prep for the video, and then tomorrow morning I have some work stuff at 9, and then I need to record and get going. Tomorrow's another day in paradise. So thanks for being here. I think we had a bunch of people joining on and off. So we're gonna do probably one again on Sunday. I'll announce that. I think it makes sense to announce these, probably 5 or 6 my time in the evening, and then go from there. I think this every other day sequence seems to make sense. So hopefully people get something out of this and watch the whole recording. I think there's some stuff that might make sense, might help you, but thanks a lot. I appreciate it.